Welcome to a discussion on how to let go of a narcissist with the Trauma Bond Detox Method. If you're a survivor of emotional abuse or other relationship trauma and you're struggling to break free from a toxic or controlling relationship, this message is for you. My name is Marv Curtis, and for years I've been helping survivors of relationship abuse heal and reclaim their lives, using trauma-informed coaching to address the three different ways we hold toxic stress in our bodies. First, we hold it cognitively in our brain in the form of the stories that we tell about our experience. Second, we hold it emotionally in our heart, so to speak, and sometimes the feelings are so deep we forget they're there, and sometimes we just ignore them and hope they'll go away. And third, we hold it somatically, which is to say, with feelings in our bodies where it eventually can show up as pain, anxiety, depression, and other physical symptoms that don't seem to have a specific cause. Here's the important difference you need to know. Almost every one of the survivors I've helped have experienced toxic stress from unresolved traumas in their past. That stress preconditioned them to accept the bad relationship they are trying to change now. And the solution always starts with identifying and releasing that stress. These are people who may be just like you, who used to feel like there was no hope to get the peace, confidence, and joy they truly deserve. Over the last several years, I've noticed that most people in this situation are missing some key elements, even after years of therapy, medication, and counseling, and still haven't been able to achieve emotional healing. But the good news is there's fresh hope. You could be just days away from a renewed sense of self-worth. Even after as little as one coaching session, many of my clients are surprised to feel new hope again, some for the first time in years. See, in my time working with survivors of abuse, I find that the biggest thing holding you back from getting true emotional freedom is understanding the patterns behind why you were stuck. And this can leave you feeling hopeless and searching in all the wrong places. The good news is that I've developed a simple, evidence-based path to getting emotional freedom, and it probably isn't like anything you've experienced or heard of before. And more good news, it doesn't require re-traumatizing you by dragging you through the pain of endlessly retelling and reliving your past. To show you what I mean, I'd like to tell you about a couple of my clients. For privacy, I've changed their names and disguised some of the details, but these represent actual clients. First, let me tell you about Joanne. At 65, she had reached the point where she'd almost given up hope. At 30, Joanne married a man 10 years her senior, hoping for a loving partnership, but soon her dream turned into a nightmare. Her husband's impatience and criticism of her high sensitivity eroded her confidence. When his workload increased and they had a child within the first year, his criticism intensified. This culminated in a humiliating tirade against her in front of her dearest friends, from which she never recovered. Joanne became withdrawn and compliant, her vibrant spirit crushed under the weight of anxiety and depression. Recently, after over 30 years of walking on eggshells with her husband and feeling overwhelmed by her deteriorating mental and physical health, Joanne admitted herself to a psychiatric hospital for depression. She hadn't been able to change out of her pajamas for months and couldn't stop crying. She'd tried everything available to her without finding relief. After 10 days as an inpatient, she was discharged with recommendations for ketamine therapy and EMDR. But despite these efforts, nothing seemed to change, and she despaired of ever feeling normal again. In her desperate search for a solution, Joanne discovered the Trauma Bond Detox Method. A trauma bond is a toxic emotional attachment between an abuser and their victim based on repeated cycles of abuse and positive reinforcement. Within just 30 days of starting to detox, Joanne began experiencing a remarkable transformation. She began old hobbies she had forgotten and even started inviting guests over for dinner and games again. These were activities she had long avoided due to her anxiety and depression. Joanne's newfound confidence and joy not only uplifted her, but also began to mend her strained relationship with her husband. This fostered a more supportive and harmonious home environment. Now, Joanne's story is a testament to the power of the Trauma Bond Detox Method. Next, let me tell you about Sarah, a woman in her mid-40s who's always been acutely aware of the emotions of those around her. As a highly sensitive person, Sarah absorbed the emotions of others like a sponge, often leaving her feeling nauseous, suffering from acid reflux, and plagued by migraines. Growing up, Sarah was raised by a passive-aggressive and controlling mother. This environment taught her to be a people pleaser, constantly seeking approval and avoiding conflict. Her mother's manipulative behavior ingrained in Sarah a profound sense of self-doubt and anxiety. Several years ago, Sarah became engaged to a man who mirrored her mother's worst traits. He was controlling and critical, constantly making her doubt herself. The emotional strain took a toll on Sarah's already fragile health, and one day, in a particularly cruel twist, her fiancé threatened to break off the engagement if she didn't improve. This ultimatum was the breaking point for Sarah. Summoning all her courage, she left him, hoping for relief. But the trauma bond she had formed with him lingered, triggering similar emotional and physical responses to those she had experienced with her mother. Sarah found herself trapped in a cycle of anxiety and physical illness that disrupted her ability to work and find peace. Feeling hopeless but determined to find a way out, Sarah discovered the Trauma Bond Detox Method. Over time, Sarah began to understand that her brain had been making some mistakes. She learned to identify and correct these mental mistakes, empowering herself to break free from the trauma bond. With consistent practice of the Trauma Bond Detox Method, Sarah's anxiety decreased and her physical impairments significantly improved. She regained her self-control and self-esteem, allowing her to resume her work and daily activities with renewed energy and confidence. If Sarah can transform her life with this method, imagine what it could do for you. Both Joanne and Sarah were missing key pieces of the puzzle as they tried to recover. I'll share these with you right now. I highly suggest taking notes as this has made a huge impact on me and my clients. The main mistakes they made include relying on surface-level solutions like internet, which was overwhelming, self-medication, and advice from unqualified friends. These often lead to even more emotional pain, negative behaviors, and strained relationships. After thousands of hours of coaching and following the proven paths of my brilliant mentors, I've developed a remarkable process that quickly helps identify and release narcissistic trauma bonds. My program works in 3 phases, and when you combine them, they result in lasting change. Phase 1, what are the mistakes your brain is making? In my program, recognizing the mistakes your brain is making is the crucial first step towards breaking free from the cycle of abuse and reclaiming your emotional independence. Your brain, in an attempt to protect you and make sense of the abuse, makes the following kinds of mistakes. 1. You tell yourself that the abuser's behavior is okay, or that you deserve it, making yourself believe their treatment is acceptable. 2. You think about the few times the abuser was nice and believe those moments show that the relationship isn't really so bad. 3. You believe the abuser's criticisms and think their behavior is your fault, feeling like you deserve the bad treatment. 4. You think the abuse isn't very bad and compare it to worse kinds of abuse. 5. You worry that life without the abuser might be worse than staying with them. 6. You think you can't handle your emotions without the abuser and believe they are the only one who can support you. And 7. You feel confused because your brain can't make sense of the abuser being both kind and cruel, which makes it hard to take action. Phase 2, how to understand the parts of you that are trying to protect you the wrong way. In this phase, you learn how to see and understand the different parts of yourself that are trying to protect you, even if they do it in unhelpful ways. By understanding and working with the parts of yourself that are trying to protect you the wrong way, you can transform these parts into allies and heal your inner wounds. See if you recognize any of these parts. The people pleaser, working hard to keep the narcissist happy, constantly seeking approval and validation from others. The avoider, avoiding confrontation or any situations that might trigger the narcissist's anger or disapproval. The rationalizer, justifying or rationalizing the abuser's behavior to make it seem more acceptable, or blaming yourself instead. The shame bearer, holding intense feelings of shame and guilt, often believing that the abuse is somehow deserved. The fearful one, constantly on edge, anticipating the next episode of abuse or criticism, and carrying the trauma of past experiences. The perfectionist, believing that by being perfect, you can avoid criticism and abuse, striving for impossible standards to feel worthy. The caretaker, taking care of others, often at the expense of your own needs, hoping to gain love and approval through self-sacrifice. The addict, the part that turns to substance abuse, overeating, or other behaviors to numb the pain and gain temporary relief. The dissociator, the part that disconnects from reality through zoning out, daydreaming, or sleeping to escape overwhelming emotions. Phase 3, reprogramming your brain. These are evidence-based mind-body processes that can reprogram your brain, your heart, and your body. This phase offers techniques that help your mind and body heal from a trauma bond by changing how you think, feel, and sense. Here are the 3 techniques. First is cognitive pain reprocessing. Second, emotional freedom tapping. And third is somatic signal shifting. Integrating these techniques creates a powerful toolkit for reprogramming your parts and healing the trauma bond. By employing these 3 mind-body processes, you can effectively reprogram your brain, heart, and body, paving the way for emotional freedom and resilience. So here's a question. What price are your heart and body paying to continue suffering from a narcissistic trauma bond? Those who do not move through a proven process frequently continue to suffer, sometimes for years. In fact, no amount of money can compensate for the time and happiness lost while living in the fear of a trauma bond. Now, you might be wondering, when is the right time to start to let go of a narcissist with a proven plan? Well, starting now ensures you begin your journey to healing and empowerment without further delay. Getting emotional freedom doesn't need to be time-consuming, complex, expensive, or even painful. In fact, the process is much faster and simpler than you'd imagine. Within 72 hours, you'll be onboarded, activated, and already moving forward, with immediate access to resources, community, and coaching. Now, you've got 2 roads you can take. First, you can continue doing exactly as you are right now, and nothing will change. You'll get exactly what you're getting now. Or the other road is to allow us to use this proven process to solve it together. If you're ready to get the help you need and follow a proven process to achieve emotional freedom, join me for a 30-minute Zoom strategy session to understand how the Trauma Bond Detox program might work for you to cut through the pain and achieve amazing results. In fact, I'm so confident in this strategy that when you complete your session with me, I'll also give you my How to Negotiate with a Narcissist video as a free bonus. To get started right now, click the button at the end of this video and schedule an appointment for your personal 30-minute strategy session. The best time is right now. Thanks for listening.